All right, I feel like we can probably get going so we can dive into all of the information and make sure we have time for people's questions. So thank you for joining us today. We're excited to tell you a bit more about Evergreen's investment program and some award opportunities that we're offering, as well as some other opportunities that are within our ecosystem that could be beneficial to you all. So Tony, I will hand it over to you.
All right, thanks, Dylan. Let's skip to the first content slide.
Okay.
So welcome, everyone. Some of you might be familiar with our organization as Clean Energy Trust. We, just to kick things off, we've actually recently rebranded to Evergreen Climate Innovations. New year, new name, but it's a way to kind of better reflect what we're doing and reflect our kind of mission and value that we're providing to our ecosystem. We have lots of information about the rebrand and kind of our new organizational setup on our website, so feel free to check that out. We've got a couple of overview videos there as well to give you a sort of reintroduction to our organization. Looks like Amy just posted the link in chat, so go check those out when you've got the time. Let's go to the next slide. Yep, more of the same. Yeah, you can keep going. So just a quick intro to our team. Our team has been around since 2010 as an organization. We at a high level, we invest in early stage climate technology startups, generally speaking from the pre-seed to the seed stage. But our organization is set up to support a lot of the entrepreneurs and founders and startups out there that might be at a disadvantage, both in terms of the industry that they're in, as well as the geographic location they're in. So as a lot of you might know, we specifically focus on the greater Midwest region of the US. And we're focused on catalyzing new investments into this geographic space, as well as the general early stage clean tech and climate tech sector as well. Next slide. So I'll give a quick intro myself, and then I'll pass it briefly to Dylan to give a quick intro of herself as well. But my name is Tony Zhu. I'm the venture associate on the investment team here at Evergreen Climate Innovations. I've been with the team for a little over 3 years, primarily leading due diligence on our investment process and supporting our portfolios and portfolio management programs. So things like assisting them on follow-on fundraising and pitch coaching and things like that. Dylan, you want to give a quick intro?
Sure. So hi, everyone. My name is Dylan O'Reilly. I am the Senior Program Manager here at Evergreen Climate Innovations. I've been with the organization for roughly 2.5 years now. In addition to working on the investment team and assisting in the due diligence of companies that we're considering for investment, I also lead the award opportunities that we offer here at Evergreen, including 2 that we're going to talk about today.
Awesome. Thanks, Dylan. So like I've said before, we're focused on providing catalytic capital and support to the startups within our ecosystem and to entrepreneurs, individual entrepreneurs as well. We're set up as a nonprofit to best provide that value. Our fund is capitalized with philanthropic contributions, which means that all the dollars that we invest are from sponsors and sources of philanthropic capital, such as government grants, private foundations, high net worth individuals, and other sources like that. But the whole purpose is to help catalyze more private capital into the space. And we as an organization are sort of serving as a bellwether for this sector as an investable area, as well as this geography as an investable geography. Next slide. So speaking of geography, this is kind of a map of the general area that we cover. Essentially, we go from Denver to Pittsburgh and then everything north of Tennessee within those bounds. We've done investments in this space for, like I said, over 10 years. And we focused on this space because we've seen empirical evidence that shows that startups that are based in this general kind of Midwestern region are inherently at a disadvantage when it comes to access to capital versus their peers on the West Coast and East Coast and further south. So we wanted to set up some of these programs to help these disadvantaged founders to reach the capital that their innovations deserve. Next slide. So, and this is largely how we do our, we make our investments. So we call our platform the 501 VC platform. So once again, it is capitalized with philanthropic contributions. It's also set up as a revolving and evergreen fund. So that means that unlike a typical venture capital fund that is based on an LP model or a limited partnership model, where the fund managers go out and raise a new fund every 3 to 5 years and need to deliver certain returns to their capital backers. Given our status as a 501c3 nonprofit, our fund kind of takes in the capital from our philanthropic donors. We invest that capital, and then any proceeds that come out of exits from those investments get recycled and reinvested into the funds. We don't take any sort of management fee or anything like that. We just continue to invest the funds that we manage, and therefore the size of our portfolio and the size of the investments that we manage continue to grow over time. And we like to call that compounding impact. It's a great sort of way for, on our donor side, it's a great way for the donors to kind of create impact that grows over the years as we make new investments with the same capital. And it provides a very sustainable model for investing in the space. It also allows us to bear a little more risk than conventional VC funds when it comes to things like time horizon risk for deep tech or hard tech innovations that might take more than a comfortable amount of time for the traditional VC in order to reach the market and generate some revenues. Next slide. So going into some of the funding opportunities, I'll talk a little bit first about our investment program, and then Dylan's going to touch on some of the other programs that we run. So on our investment program, we've already given a brief overview, but in terms of the types of investments that we make, we typically invest about $200,000 to $300,000 in an initial check for pre-seed to seed stage companies. We do sometimes get comfortable with kind of the earlier side of Series A deals, but generally pre-seed to seed is our sweet spot there. And again, we're investing in the greater Midwest region of the US. And specifically, these investments are coming in the form of, we prefer to make these investments in the form of convertible notes, but we're comfortable with joining a syndicate or joining an existing equity round or other or safe round or anything like that, depending on the situation. And at a high level, we're just looking for market terms. So we're not a charity in the sense of we're kind of just making or we're giving out free money. We are investing with that sort of financial mindset, but we do want to kind of benefit the startups that we're supporting as well. Next slide. So these are just some of the sectors that we invest in. This is by no means an all-inclusive list. We like to say that we look at anything kind of across the broad spectrum of clean tech and climate tech, but at a high level, we're looking at innovations that address climate mitigation, so mitigating the effects of climate change, climate resilience, which is basically preparing for future implications of climate change, and then natural resource conservation. So there's a lot of overlap in between these sectors and those three pillars. But if there are any technologies out there that are within scope in terms of geography and stage, and one of these sectors that falls under that broader umbrella, then we are willing and excited to take a look at those technologies. Next slide. This is a glance at our portfolio. We've made investments in 38 early stage climate tech startups since our founding in 2010, but we've been investing since 2014 because back in the day we had started off making competitive non-recourse grants. But these are all the startups that are currently in our portfolio of investments. And we're excited to continue to build on this portfolio as well. Next slide. So just a quick highlight on our latest investment that we've made. Just last month, we closed our investment in a company called Rebundle. They're based in St. Louis, Missouri. It's a Black women-led and women-owned business. They're very impactful on a CPG sector that is normally, doesn't get a whole lot of attention within the VC space, and that is hair extensions, especially for women of color. Rebundle creates braiding hair and hair extension products made out of sustainable banana fibers. So if you think about a banana plant, typically what happens at harvest is once you take the fruit off, the plant itself dies and goes to waste. Rebundle is leveraging that sort of waste byproduct of banana production and turning those unused stems of those banana trees into sustainable and also chemical-free plant-based braiding hair bundles, and it solves a lot of issues as well with the current consumer market for those hair products, because the most widely used hair extension products out there are made out of essentially plastics. So these synthetic plastic fibers are very bad for skin and cause a lot of skin irritation. So there's a big kind of social impact angle there as well by giving this customer base access to cleaner and more sustainable, more comfortable products for their hair. Next slide. So these are just a couple of figures regarding our portfolio and the impact that we've made with our portfolio. So I'll just call out a couple of these. So that second bullet on the far left, $39 of follow-on funding per $1 of evergreen investment. This basically means that for every dollar that we've put into our portfolio, after we've invested in these companies, they've gone on to raise an additional $39 for each dollar that we've invested in follow-on funding. And that includes both private and public capital from the perspective of grant funding, as well as investment from private markets, such as venture capital and private equity, et cetera. So kind of the numerator of that is $259 million in follow-on funding catalyzed. Again, that includes both public and private funding, but this is a number that we're really proud of. It goes to show that our portfolio is making great strides out there in the world, and they're able to prove out their technologies and raise more money to continue their mission. Another thing we're really proud of is the diversity, equity, and inclusion aspect of our portfolio. So 57% of our portfolio companies are led by either female and or minority founders. Our portfolio has also created a lot of great jobs within the Midwest region. 857 is the latest tally. Then a couple more on the right. We're really kind of comfortable with all stages of investment there. So 38% of the companies that we invested in has taken us on as their first external sort of institutional investor. And it goes to show kind of the flexibility of our program and our investing approach to kind of take on some of those really early and challenging investments that maybe aren't the best fit for traditional VC at that point in their life cycles. Next slide. So just a quick recap, we're looking at any companies and technologies that are at the pre-seed to seed stage primarily, that are based in the greater Midwest region of the US and that fall into one of those aforementioned climate impact buckets. We welcome all companies that fit within those criteria to kind of come check us out and submit pitch materials or reach out with any other questions that they might have. There's a link on this slide, evergreeninno.org/apply, and I believe Amy just shared it in the chat as well. There's a really simple intake form there, a lot of kind of basic information, basic biographical information about the company, about you as a founder, and a space to kind of submit a pitch deck and other pitch materials. So be sure to check that out. We've got more information on our website as well in terms of what we're looking for in terms of investments. And yeah, that's an overview of our investment program. So I'll pass it off to Dylan now to talk about some of the other funding programs that we run.
Yeah. All right, thanks, Tony. So looking now towards awards, we offer 2 awards here at Evergreen that are focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Obviously, it has been proven that women and people of color are disproportionately affected by climate change, and thus they are in a very unique position to help drive climate solutions that will provide benefits for their community. And we are proud to offer awards for them to help on their mission towards climate mitigation and resilience. So the first award is the U.S. Bank Cleantech Inclusion Award. This is the 3rd year that we've partnered with U.S. Bank to provide support for entrepreneurs who are female identifying and or people of color, who are building innovative companies that benefit the environment, create jobs, and drive economic impact. There will be 1 winner of the award for the 2022 cycle. The awardee will receive a $25,000 non-recourse grant, 12 months of business mentorship from the Evergreen team, as well as the folks over at US Bank, and then heightened exposure to both investors and potential customers through connections from our network of strategic partners, as well as US Banks. So yeah. Applications are open, but the deadline is coming up. So if you are interested and you qualify, I highly encourage you to apply, but those applications are due basically at midnight on Friday, February 25th. In terms of sectors that are eligible, we are looking at a variety, but they overall include renewable energy, energy efficiency, smart buildings and cities, energy storage, mobility and advanced transportation, and then an environmental product or service innovation. And then for location, I'm not going to list out all of the states, but they're right there. One thing I do want to note, however, is that the geography of eligibility is defined by US Bank's service territory. So it does differ from our investment geography, which could serve as a good opportunity for entrepreneurs who maybe are not within our investment geography to still get in the loop in terms of the climate ecosystem within our region, the Midwest region, and foster relationships in this area by connecting with us and over the 12 months of mentorship. So like I said, we've offered this award for the past 2 years. Our past winners include Rebundle, our latest portfolio company. So applying for the award is also a good in terms of getting to know the Evergreen team. It's by no means a guarantee, but investment may or may not happen. And then the 2020, the inaugural winner was New Mix Materials, who are developing an additive material to help remove high value metals and other additives from water. So then moving on, the next award is the Nicor Gas Multicultural Innovator Award. This award is specifically for people of color who are making a positive impact throughout Illinois. So the award is roughly the same, another non-recourse grant of $25,000, 12 months of business mentorship, and then again, heightened exposure to both investors and potential customers. The applications again are due on Friday, February 25th. So if you are an innovator of color in Illinois, I would encourage you to apply. There's a broader range of sectors, including renewable energy, energy efficiency, smart buildings and cities, water, ag tech, energy storage, mobility and advanced transportation, circular economy, and then digital solutions for operational efficiency, reduced management cost or maintenance costs, customer engagement, kind of software type solutions. and then other worker training or management solutions. Again, this award is for companies that are based in Illinois. One thing to mention is that if you are eligible for NICOR, you also are eligible for US Bank. So I'd encourage you to apply for both and yeah, double the exposure. The past winner for the NICOR award, this is only the second year we're offering it. So the first winner was last year, which is Celodyne Technologies out of Willowbrook. They are developing a novel membrane for hydrogen fuel cells to increase efficiencies and operating ranges. Then in addition to the work that the opportunities that we are offering, there are plenty of other opportunities that our strategic partners are offering to foster the climate tech community within the greater Midwest region. So we wanted to take the time to highlight those as well. So first up, our neighbors over at MHub, also in Chicago, they are doing the Climate Tech Startup Pitch Competition, which is coming up quickly. The competition showcases cutting edge hard tech startups that are specializing in climate and energy technologies. And the pitch competition is for underrepresented female founders and entrepreneurs of color. If you would like to be considered in this competition, you can apply at the link listed in the right-hand corner, and applications are due next Friday, February 18th. And then 5 finalists will pitch online on Thursday, March 10th for cash prizes. Next is the Spark Accelerator out of Tennessee. It is a business accelerator designed to help early stage clean tech businesses mature and grow. For each cohort, they accept up to 6 companies, and benefits of joining a cohort over at Spark include stipends to cover participation costs. There's a 12-week business curriculum, meeting and co-working space over at University of Tennessee. There's mentorship from regional experts, assistance with developing your prototype, and then connections with organizations that they have relationships with, including us, and other to note, like the US Department of Energy and Tennessee-based organizations as well. If you would like to apply for the Spark Accelerator, the applications close on March 11th, and then the accelerator will begin in June of this year, with wrapping up at their demo day in September. So again, if you'd like to apply to the Spark Accelerator, the link will be right here, tnresearchpark.org/spark. Next up, in addition to their pitch competition, MHub is offering a climate and energy tech accelerator this spring. The accelerator focuses on identifying early stage startups working on hard tech and infrastructure solutions. Eligible sectors include renewable energy, hydrogen, carbon capture and sequestration, energy storage, vehicle to grid technologies, heat sink technologies, distributed energy resources, sustainable buildings, and the Internet of Things. So 8 to 10 startups will be chosen for this cohort, and you'll be a participant in an 8 or 6 month incubation program, which will include just assistance with product development and prototyping, in addition, business development and leadership training from MHub and their strategic partners, as well as mentorship, customer validation, and piloting, depending on the company's stage. Applicants are welcome from anywhere across the globe, as long as you're willing to spend 6 months in Chicago. Applications are open now, and they are due on March 28th. So if that is of interest to you, again, the link to apply is in the lower half of this slide. Then is the Centrepolis Accelerator out of Michigan. C3 offers grants, investments, as well as business services that support the development and scaling of climate technologies, clean tech, and circular economy technologies in the greater Midwest area. Or actually, the program's open globally. to both growth stage startups and established firms with unique C3 technology and or business models. The application to participate in the accelerator is rolling, but there is a pitch event on August 25th, so later this summer. And if that is of interest to you, you can apply at the link below as well. So then, kind of to summarize all of the dates that I probably just threw at you, you can see right here. So February, very busy month. You got the MHub pitch competition. Deadlines for our investment cycle is February 21st. So while we do accept applications on a rolling basis, if you would like to be considered for our spring 2022 investment cycle, make sure to get your application in by midnight on February 21st. For our spring investment cycle, the cycle will last basically through February, with us ultimately hoping to make investment decisions in June. So one thing to note. Then again, if you are a university startup, applications are due for our Energy Tech University Prize event, or it's being hosted on February 24th. Then the US Bank and NICOR awards are both due on February 25th. March 11th is when Spark is due, and March 28th is the deadline to apply for MHub and Energy Tech Accelerator. So now let's get to the important part and answer some of your questions. And yeah, Tony, I know we got some questions in through the registration, so let me pull those up. I'm going to stop my screen share just so you can see us, and so I can grab those questions for you. Let's see. So first up, we have, my company is not technically in the Midwest, but we do X, Y, or Z in the Midwest, and they were willing to move to the Midwest if fully funded. Would they still apply for our investment program?
So for companies that are not currently based in, well, I'll say that we primarily look at companies and consider companies that have substantial operations in the Midwest, whether that's the founding team is in the Midwest or kind of the operating base or manufacturing base is in the Midwest. We will consider some of those edge cases where maybe not everyone is in the Midwest, but we primarily want to invest in companies that are helping bring innovation and capital into the Midwest. Now to the question about if a company is willing to move to the Midwest, given the right funding, we don't invest in contingent upon any sort of promises of moving to the Midwest, so that those companies would unfortunately not be considered. But there are great kind of programs to get you to the Midwest, including some of the ones that Dylan had just mentioned, that are great sources of non-dilutive funding, which could be great entry points as well.
Definitely. It looks like we received a few questions on kind of the details of what entails an investment from Evergreen. So how about we take a few minutes to look at those? So I think you briefly mentioned this during your part of the presentation, Tony, but can you remind us how we typically invest and if we take equity?
Yeah, so we usually invest through convertible notes, but we are more than happy to also join a syndicated round, whether that's equity or SAFE or any other kind of method there. Typically $200,000 to $300,000 in our initial check. We are comfortable making follow-on investments after that, depending on the situation. And I think we got a question in chat about whether or not we lead rounds. So we are comfortable leading, but at the same time, it does depend on sort of the size of the round and the situation for the company. We won't, we're not in a position to invest, $1 million or $2 million into a round. So from the perspective of the company's expectations about a lead in terms of the check size or in general how the lead can play into syndication, we might not be in the best position to do that. But in a situation where our check is sufficient to lead the round, we're more than happy to do that.
Yeah. And then another one related is if we take board seats.
We typically don't take board director seats, but we will ask for a board observer seat. The point there being, we want to do what's best for the company. We also want to keep tabs on the company, but at the stage that we're investing in, we also want to make room for later stage investors and other advisors that the company wants to bring on. That said, this is also very situation dependent. If you as a founder feel that a certain member of our team or someone in general from Evergreen is the type of person you want to be a voting board member, then we're happy to consider that as well. But typically, that's not something that we kind of demand in our investment terms.
Mm-hmm. So I think this question is a good segue. So in addition to the financial support that we provide via investment, what other supports do we provide to portfolio companies?
Yeah, so the investment in that initial check is just kind of the beginning of the story for our relationship with our portfolio companies. I mentioned some things before in terms of pitch coaching and helping companies with follow-on fundraising. But really, as an Evergreen portfolio company, you're joining this huge ecosystem that we have here in the greater Midwest. You have access to not only kind of our resources and our team, but also everyone within our network. So whether that's investors, corporate partners, other kind of incubator and accelerator programs, even like universities and national labs, and also kind of outsourced help with things like accounting and legal work and even HR software. We make a lot of really sort of value-added introductions and contributions from that standpoint, and we want to be in the best position we can to help our portfolio companies. So we're always building our network in those spaces. And we will help you out however you find us useful. We will proactively ask how we can be of use, and we will it's in our best interest to help our portfolio succeed. So our interests are definitely aligned there, and we will always support our portfolio to the best of our ability.
Yeah, definitely. All right, another one from the Q&A box is, what does your investment process and timing look like? So could be helpful just to give an overview as an example of our upcoming spring cycle, if you want to give a brief timeline of that.
Sure. So timing wise, it does kind of fluctuate a little bit based on time of year, and also especially towards the end of an investment process in terms of negotiations and closing processes. But in general, it's our diligence process is sort of a down selection process. And to clarify that, so we like to batch our diligence into 2 cycles per year, which is why we use that kind of spring cycle terminology. We typically do one in the spring and one in the fall, where we're aggregating and collecting all the pitch materials and inbound requests that we've received from companies and from entrepreneurs. We'll look at them over the course of usually 2 to 3 months, and that entails a process of a lot of conversations with the company and the founders themselves, but also with our network of third-party subject matter experts and other folks within our ecosystem that we like to call upon when we're doing our diligence. So there are a couple of different stages to that process. I'm not going to get into the weeds with that, but generally speaking, we are very communicative when it comes to our process when we hit that kind of cycle timeline, and we will excuse the traffic noise. We will kind of provide feedback along the way, and if we have any reservations or questions, we'll ask them, and so you can expect some very transparent communications there throughout that whole process.
Okay, looking at other questions that we have. So do we invest via a program-related investment, i.e. donor directed?
We do not. So our fund is fully kind of directed by us. Our donors have no control over and no say into sort of what specific companies that we invest in. So we are not a PRI fund.
Yeah. All right. So next one. Do we provide any support to companies seeking to better quantify their climate impact, including, say, their emissions reduction potential?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is kind of something that we've been really getting into. We've partnered with a lot of organizations out there that are looking to kind of methodology around impact quantification and measurement. Currently, we're starting out with our portfolio. We're helping the companies within our portfolio sort of assess what is the best way to measure that impact and progress along those metrics. But we also use that in our diligence process as well. Impact is one of the big considerations that we take into account. Outside of the kind of traditional VC view of financial returns, we're really looking at what kind of lasting environmental impacts can the companies that we invest in leave as their legacy and also kind of empower. And so, yeah, so we do a lot of sort of internal modeling around that. We also consult some of those external subject matter experts to that end as well. But when it comes to sort of portfolio support, that is where a lot of that legwork comes into play as well.
Definitely. All right, keeping on track with investment program related questions. So if I've applied before but have not been selected, am I welcome to apply again?
Yeah, so we always welcome applicants to reapply, although it's probably not very likely that we will kind of seriously consider an application that has come in 2 cycles in a row, sort of back to back. We like to see, unless there has been significant progress or significant change in terms of whether it's the technology development or kind of customer traction and things like that. We do like to see kind of that progress before we consider an investment that we've already passed on. That said, like I mentioned before, we will always be transparent on why we are passing on a company that we do pass on, as well as expectations in terms of if we do see that company again, what we'd like to see improved or changed or anything like that.
Yep, definitely. All right. We have another question in the Q&A box. So as an evergreen fund, what kind of milestones and metrics do we track for companies you work with? And how hands-on are we in terms of tracking and implementing progress at portfolio companies?
So in terms of specific metrics and things like that, I think that's very specific to the companies that are in our portfolio and that we're looking at. We don't have any sort of universal metric system to gauge progress on that front, but we are very hands-on with our portfolio companies and sort of setting expectations in terms of what does success mean in 1, 2, 3+ years, and we can assist in that as well, whether it's doing some financial modeling or like we just talked about, impact modeling or things like that. And this is partly why we prefer to take on that board observer role at a minimum. We like to kind of keep in touch with the goings on of the company. We like to keep tabs on the success of the company and sharing that success as well, whether it's kind of helping with the PR and the communication of big milestones reached or anything like that. We also, the support that we provide is also kind of in an effort to promote some of those successes and reach some of those milestones. So, but at a high level, it's very specific to each individual company, and we will kind of, once you're in our portfolio, we will work with you to determine what those signs of success are.
Yeah. All right. Why don't we take a pivot for a moment and answer some DEI award related questions? I can handle those. So first one is, what does 12 months of mentorship entail for DEI award winners? So the beauty of the DEI award mentorship is that it is completely customized to the winner. Basically, the first meeting you would have with the Evergreen and either the US Bank or NICOR team is outlining kind of the goals of the company for the next 12 months and what you specifically need help with. So it could be anything from sitting down with the Evergreen investment team to discuss your fundraising strategies, and we can provide relevant guidance and introductions as needed. It could also be helping to map out your internal operations. So as a first-time founder, for example, how you think through standing up the structure for internal operations, including hiring, HR, company culture, and beyond. We're here to help you with that. Evergreen and both US Bank and NICOR have extensive networks of external resources that could be of benefit to you. So we're more than happy to facilitate introductions that are relevant, whether that be to a seat or an Evergreen portfolio company who could provide guidance as a successful startup, or just general other mentors or kind of connections that are within your industry that we think could be helpful for you to be connected with. And yeah, we can help you with your communication strategy. We can help with connecting you to potential customers, etc. It really is what you want to make of it. And with that, we can be as hands-on or as light touch as you want us to be. So then looking at other questions, are there any stipulations with winning the NICOR or US Bank award, i.e. requirements for the use of funds? So no, it is a non-recourse grant. You are welcome to do with it whatever you wish, whatever you think will help grow your business. So yeah. And then looks like one more. How have past winners benefited from the DEI awards? I would say in a myriad of ways. So for example, with our latest winner of the US Bank Award, Rebundle, they offer a recycling solution for customers to mail in their used plastic hair braids. Those normally end up in landfill and require kind of specialty processing in order to be recycled. So we are helping Rebundle kind of establish and solidify their recycling program so that they can offer for their customers everywhere the ability to send in the hair to be recycled, and then they can turn it into a variety of materials like outdoor furniture and garden tools. So we're connecting them with materials experts as well as recyclers that we know, and helping them to get that program further up and running. So yeah. All right, it looks like we have another question in the Q&A box. So do we work closer with the investment after a stock conversion, Tony?
So I'm assuming that's in reference to our kind of convertible note investment process and after we convert to common stock. So the question is, I would say the answer is yes, I would say, to the extent that it's still appropriate for us to remain, very hands-on and involved. Usually that conversion entails the introduction of a kind of larger or later stage institutional investor, to the extent that maybe they want to clean up the cap table or otherwise kind of have more. They want themselves to have more of a say during board meetings and things like that. We're happy to participate in whatever way is best for the company. That said, we'll always be a resource to the companies in our portfolio. So whether there's a conversion or not, we're always available to kind of help out wherever is needed.
Yep. All right, we have another DEI question. So when will the results of the US Bank and NICOR Gas Awards be announced, and when will winners receive money? So the announcement of the winners, I think, is a little bit to be decided whether or not for the 2022 award cycles, if we would do it in the spring, shortly after the winners have been selected, or if we are returning to in-person events, if we unveil them at our annual Co-Invest Cleantech event, which is slated to occur, I believe, later in the year in 2022. That wouldn't prohibit the receival of funds, though. winners will be selected for both US Bank and NICOR in the late spring, early summer of this year, with funds being distributed shortly thereafter. So, yeah. All right, let's see if we got any other questions in terms of the registration. So when should companies, if they've applied for investment, plan to send updates? Say it's been a while since they've heard from us.
So for companies that have applied significantly before the deadline for a cycle, I'd recommend, before the deadline for that cycle to submit an update. Usually, any sort of document that lays out, whether it's bullet forms or slides or anything that lays out any significant milestones achieved or customer traction or anything like that, we're happy to take a look at that. Generally speaking, the more communicative, the better. We prefer to kind of have, given the number of companies that we're looking at, we generally prefer updates to be kind of inbound rather than us kind of trying to chase leads and things like that. So do keep us updated to the extent that and as often as you can. When it comes to during the cycle process. If you have significant updates, I would recommend to submit to let us know as soon as possible, because it is a very sort of competitive review process for us, and we are looking at the best opportunities to invest in. So in terms of the applications and the companies that are being considered, it is in your best interest to kind of keep us as up to date as possible.
Yes. So somewhat of a similar question that I can answer. So if you've applied and you have not heard back from us regarding your application and wondering if you can get an update. So we strive to get back to all applicants for our investment program within a 3-week period after they apply. But if you apply kind of shortly after a deadline for a cycle passes, there might be a larger window. So feel free to reach out to us if you would like further information. But in terms of if you apply in between, like Tony said, the batching of our diligence, it might be a bit of time before we have further updates or requests for you, just because we aren't diligencing your application yet. But you're more than welcome to contact us at any time for just general updates if you want to be kept in the loop of where we are at in terms of timing. And the same goes for the DEI awards as well, I would say. All right, it looks like we don't have any other questions, but we can give folks a second if they have some to input them into the chat or the Q&A. But if we don't receive any more, like Amy just said in the chat, you're welcome to email us at info@evergreeninno.org, and we can follow up with you via email. Otherwise, we can probably end a little bit early and give folks a couple minutes back.
Thanks everyone for joining.
Yeah, looks like no other questions are coming in. So yeah, we can probably end early. Thank you for joining us. Again, feel free to reach out if you have any other questions. And yeah, we're looking forward to reviewing your applications. So we'll talk soon, I guess.